Okay, good evening, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to the call for tonight. And we are going to do and talk about pricing. And we were going to do pricing yesterday as part of our new marketer masterclass. However, I did not record my screen when I did it. And so the audio version is now as part of the podcast that I posted today. But I still definitely want to do the session, and I want to make sure that the slides are kind of moving with what I'm talking about, so that you will be able to pick up on everything that I said. Now, I've also decided to open this up to everyone, and so that for those of you who are not part of the New Marketer Masterclass, if you want to get a feel for what we're going to be doing on a weekly basis, you'll be able to do that here tonight or whenever you're watching this, even if you're watching this by archive. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk about pricing. And the reason that we're talking about pricing is that there has been a lot of discussion, specifically within the PLR community, but outside of that community about where pricing needs to be, about what we need to be charging, and about whether or not uh, prices need to go up unilaterally. Just because maybe the pricing for certain products, whether it's information products or PLR, is considered to be too low. And so I'm going to take a bit of a different road when it comes to this. And so I'm going to give my perspective here tonight. And basically, where I want to start is that pricing is going to be more than your initial product cost for the customer. So, in other words, whatever your customer is paying, that might be the price that you charge them. In other words, you charge them $10 and you might consider that to be your price. And I don't think that that's fully your price. And we want to talk about what that means. So price is going to be more than initial cost that your customer pays. And this is going to be the case whether you're selling on the internet or selling to person to person. What you're doing is you're always making an offer. So it's not just about this is my product and I'm going to get somebody to buy this product and they're going to pay a price. There's more to it than that. And I don't care what you're marketing, I don't care what you're selling, you are always making an offer to the individual that you're going to be getting to buy that product or that service. And of course, you are not just selling a product. When you create an offer, right, you are basically taking the value that you know your customer wants or you know your client wants, and you are wrapping it around a product or service. So whatever they get is going to be, it's going to have a certain level of value. It can be above whatever your product does. It can be whatever the service is, the underlying service. In other words, what you're doing is you're taking so much other value to that customer and you were putting so much around that product or service, then regardless of what it's worth, regardless of what people typically pay for it, they're going to be wanting to pay you according to the value, or at minimum, they're going to be wanting to pay you faster than if they just saw it without all the other value you wrapped around it. The perception is always going to be, and needs to be, whenever you're selling, and whether it's online, but particularly for digital products, is going to be the customer should be getting something that for them exceeds what they're paying. They ought to feel like they're getting away with something. They ought to feel like they're getting so much more for their money that it was an easy decision. I mean, all of your copywriting is basically helping an individual to make a decision to buy what it is you're selling. And so you spend a lot of time in that sales letter taking somebody through the value that they're going to be getting to them, right? That's really what your copy is doing. And so that customer ought to feel like when they walk away with whatever it is you have, or they have made the purchase, that they've gotten more than what they paid. At the same time, the easiest possible thing to do to get people to buy is going to be to make them cheap. That'll always get people in the door. That'll always get people to buy. And so sometimes it's going to be the right thing to do, and other times it's not going to be the right thing to do. We want to kind of distinguish that here in this session. You want to consider all those other factors when you decide on price. If you're going to discount something, if you're going to raise the price on something, you have to consider these other factors we're going to be talking about here tonight. Now, one thing you got to consider is that price always attracts certain customers. Whatever you do in terms of price, what you're doing is you are communicating to the marketplace. You are sending out a beacon to a certain customer, whatever you're doing. And so unless the customer already knows what that thing normally costs that you're offering, right? A low price may not attract your ideal customer. And that's the thing you got to keep in mind. Yes, you can get somebody to buy and live to fight another day, but that may not be the kind of person that you ultimately want as a customer, as your long-term customer, or even as a customer that you're going to have for the rest of the year. That may not be the right person. If all you did was lower the price, they bought because the price was low, and now you have a customer that may or may not buy anything else from you, or may not necessarily appreciate what it is you put in your products because, again, you attracted them because of a low price. Now, at some point, you and I have to do something to make sure that the people that are buying from us, they understand the value of what we offer, right? We want the people to buy from us who understand the value of what we're offering. Ultimately, even if we choose a low price, we want people to understand the value that you're getting. However you do that, and we're gonna talk about some of those things here in this session. In most cases, when you have a premium price or a higher price, what you have to understand, if you think about when, let's say you're looking at a price and you're seeing everything else is $10. And then this one thing, though, which is similar, looks like all the other things, it costs $17. What that does is that kind of whets your appetite. It sort of gets you thinking. It sort of starts getting the juices going for you to figure out, well, why is this price more? Why is this one $17? What is it that they're doing? Because you want to be able to understand. And what happens is you look at that, you look at what they're offering, you look at what it does, you say, oh, well, that's why this one is higher. It may or may not make you want to buy, but it does give you that sense, okay, you know what, now I know. Now I know why these are $10 and I know why this one is 17. And whatever that investigation process takes, it could be your benefit if you truly have a feature that you can't get anyplace else. So in other words, when I go and I look at that at the $17 product in our example, and I see that something is being offered that I can't get anyplace else, then I understand the pricing, and then I understand whether or not I want to pay it. At least I got to understand that. And so what you and I have to do is we've got to be able to kind of get people to understand the value, whether we do that through the copy, whether we do that by telling them in our emails, whether we do that by telling them on social media, however we do it. What we're trying to do is we are trying to uncover value. We're not just trying to make a sale. We're trying to uncover value. And sometimes we do that again by wrapping more value around a product in order to give more value to the customer. Now, anytime you do cheap pricing is going to be the total opposite effect as you would in premium pricing. It's the opposite effect. What do we mean by that? When somebody sees a cheap price, let's say then in our example, everything else is $10, then one is $7. Right? So why are these all $10? And your mind goes through that same investigation process. You're trying to figure out, okay, well, why is this one 7 and why is everything else 10? And so you don't want people to think about your product that, well, there must be something deficient about it. There must be something that's not working about it. There must be something missing from the product. And what happens is your brain starts to try to make sense of it. You start to look for little things. And maybe some of those little things are real, maybe they're not. But what you're doing is you're sending a message to the customer that, look, this price is lower for a reason. And what you want to do, right? You may get some pushback or some reluctance because typically, you see a cheap price, and especially in the digital product world, especially in the JVZoo Warrior Plus world, but even outside of there, when you see that price, you're thinking, you know what? Somebody's going to try to hit me up with something else. Right? I'm going to get hit with another offer at some point. That's why this one is so cheap. And again, you're going to get some pushback. You're going to get some reluctance. Again, what are we trying to do with our price? We're trying to find that ideal customer. And again, just by using price in order to get them, that may or may not do it. So your pricing strategy should reflect the fact that the value skews toward the direction of the customer. So in other words, what we've got to do is when the customer buys, they've got to see it as such a value, right, to them, right? That everything is moving toward or skewing toward them. They got a deal out of it. They got a great deal out of it. They got it at the price before it went up. So they really got it at a great deal, even though it's worth more. And we've got to be able to communicate that while at the same time not communicating a lack of value. We want people to feel like they got a premium solution, they just got a great price, as opposed to something cheap. We don't want people to think they got something cheap. We want people to think they got a premium solution at a lower price. And so understanding, getting people to understand the value, getting people to understand the value of what you offer. And again, some of this is going to have to do with some of the, some of the interaction you have with people before they actually buy. The upsell process, though, is going to be an important one. And this is what we have to understand when we're doing pricing. I want to spend some of my time talking about that upsell theory. But before I do that, because I think that's important, I think if we sort of understand some basic funnel theory, we can get to how you're going to use a funnel in terms of pricing. This is going to be especially relevant when it comes to selling digital products. It's going to be especially relevant when we're talking about the JVZoo Warrior Plus world. But it works in it works in any area, right? It works in any category. So please don't narrow this down to just the digital products you see every day. This works elsewhere. Right? It works everywhere, in fact. So let's talk about basic funnel theory. When you have a front-end product, this is going to typically be the lowest introductory pricing. So in other words, it's what people are going to pay when they first meet you. And sometimes if this is going to be a low price, that's going to be okay as long as what you're doing throughout the rest of the funnel is you're really kind of keeping things congruent. So when I first meet you, I may only be willing to pay that introductory price. I may not be able to pay a higher amount. I may not be willing to pay a higher amount until I get to know you. But that doesn't mean that that's all you're going to get. That doesn't mean that your effective price is going to be that one price. You're then going to typically have some kind of OTO or some kind of back-end product. Typically, what you're doing with this second offer, or I'm sorry, with the first upsell, is you are giving that customer a no-brainer. So in other words, if they bought the front end, it works independently of anything else we're doing. It works as it works. It does exactly what we promised the person to do, exactly what the copy says it's going to do. So the person bought based on the copy. The person bought based on their understanding. But what we're going to do in the back end or OTO1 is we're going to give them a no-brainer to upgrade. In other words, if they like the front end, we've got to be able to give them something in that second upsell that might not be needed in order to attain success, but it's going to be something that you would just have to want. Thinking about this, you'll see a commercial license sometime as the first upsell. You'll see a pro version with some additional features that were not mentioned in the first one, and you don't need these additional features in order to sustain success. What the first OTO does, right? That first back end typically is supposed to do is it's supposed to expand my opportunity to grow. So in other words, when I buy as your customer, what you're doing by giving me an offer, that first upsell, is you're giving me the opportunity to expand. You are giving me the opportunity to grow. You're giving me the opportunity to do something I wouldn't be able to do if I only had the front end. So in other words, what we're saying is we're going to give people more of the same yet better, right? And we're going to increase your opportunity. It's going to be the same instruction, same tool, but increased opportunity if they get that first upsell. The second upsell then, what we're doing is we're saying you've got the front end product. Now, what we want to do is to give you a faster way of attaining success with it. And we do that typically by doing part of a process for them. So let's say the front end process takes them through something that they've got to do 10 steps. We're going to take OTO2 and we're going to do the first 3 of those steps, and we're going to give it to the customer if they're willing to buy the second upsell, right? So the upsell is DFY, or template system. So it is a way of being able to take what they learned or what they're doing or what they bought in the front end and then move on using the templates to do things faster, right? That's the second upsell. The third upsell is basically going to say, listen, if you want to maintain your results, if you want to be able to negotiate all of the changes that are going to happen, If you want to be able to do more and continually do more, then you're going to need to do something with me monthly. That's basically what you're saying in the third upsell. And so you want to be able to structure some kind of continuity, typically some kind of monthly or quarterly or yearly or something, where the person is going to be able to maintain their results. That's what you're communicating. Now, this is basic theory, and you can deviate from this, but this is a basic guide. And if you understand this, pricing is going to make sense as we get through it. Now, I want to talk about this from this standpoint. Now that we understand some basics about funnel theory, what's the effective price to the customer? So we're talking about pricing. What is the effective price that the customer actually pays? Let's assume that the front end price to the funnel is going to be $10. Let's assume that. And basically, if the individual purchases whatever your offer is, that front end offer, they pay $10. That means then that the effective price is $10, right? That's what your pricing is. So we talk about, should I lower my price? Should I raise my price? You know, is $10 too low? Is it too high? Well, yeah, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But let's move on now that we understand some basics about funnel theory. Let's now assume that the next part of your funnel, the first upsell, is going to be $100. Now, again, I'm just kind of pulling these numbers out of the air, but I'm trying to make them easier to understand. Let's say then that of the people that bought the front end offer, 20% went on to buy the first upsell, right? What that means is that your effective price is then going to be $30. So in other words, 20% times $100, we add that to the 10. That means then that your effective price is $30. So how do I raise my price? One way I raise my price is by making sure I've got a first upsell that converts. So in other words, I don't care that the person paid $10. What I care about is whether or not my first upsell is really something that's congruent, is really something that makes sense, is something that doesn't undermine what I did in the first upsell, but then effectively raises my price. Now, the next thing is, let's assume then that the next part of your funnel is going to be $1,000. Right? Let's assume that the second upsell is $1,000. What do? Let's say that only 5% of the people that bought the front end product purchased the third upsell or the second upsell. Right? So what do we do then? Right? So that means then that then we would take 5% of the $1,000, that would be $50, and our effective price is then going to be $80. So basically, what did I do? I took the $10 product, and because I've got a product that converts at 5%, I have an effective purchase price of $80. So one of the things I can do is make sure that I have an effective, sensible funnel. And again, what you can do is you can kind of use the structure that I've given you in order to structure out your funnel. Now, what does all that mean? Right? What does any or all of that mean? It means you got to have your funnel strategy in alignment, so you can predict what people are going to purchase. You've got to do that. Now, if you're gonna now, obviously you might not go from 10 to 100 to 1,000 then a monthly, but whatever you do, you've got to have that funnel strategy in alignment. It also means that you've got to be thinking in terms of your overall funnel. So you're not just pricing according to the front end offer. You're thinking about your entire funnel when you price. What we are trying to do with the funnel is we're trying to find our ideal customer. And we're trying to get them to make a purchase on the front end so that we can move them through the upsells. We have time to move them through some of our other products, right, in our horizontal funnel, and then find our ideal customer. Now, obviously, each upsell should stand on its own, right? None of them should require another level to make the most of it. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to take our product and break it up. What we do want to do is make sure the customer understands the value of what's being offered at each level. So again, we're going back to that idea that whatever you're doing in your copy, you want to make sure that it's almost impossible for the customer not to understand the value of what you're offering, regardless of what your price is. That's irrespective of the price. They have to understand the value of what's being offered. So whatever your copy is doing, you've got to make a case for the value that they're going to be getting. It also means you ought to have an idea who your ideal customer is and who you like to really be selling to. So who is your ideal customer in terms of what you're offering? Who is that ideal person? What is it? What do they look like in terms of the way they spend money with you? You've got to be able to. You've got to be sort of thinking about that, especially before you start making changes to a price. Now one of the things you want to think about is that whoever that ideal customer is, and whatever your biggest, baddest, and best offer is, they should be matching, and that's it really should be someplace at the end of your funnel. It can be your second upsell, or sometimes it can be your third upsell. But whatever it is, it should be at the end of the funnel. So that when people get there, if you've built up trust with them, they ought to be ready to go ahead and pay for your signature offer. Now, you're typically not going to get a bunch of people to do that, but all you really need is going to be a few. Now, this means that a low price is not really a low price. What we're trying to do with the low price is attempting to find our ideal customer. Now, you could say, and again, what we want to do is we don't want people to think that what they're buying is cheap, right? So in so doing, we don't want to make the price so low that they just think they're getting something cheap. What we want to do is we want to use it as a way to find our ideal customer. So basically, we do know this, right? Irrespective of that, is that low pricing does attract the widest number of buyers, right? It's always going to do that. And so what we want to do again is set that price so that we're not communicating the wrong thing. It's always going to be a separation point between those that are prospects and those have potential to be long-term customers. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to weed out people who are willing to take that first step with us and willing to go ahead and pull out a credit card, or willing to get their PayPal account out or do something in order to make a purchase. So we're making a separation. We're saying that these people are ready to go forward with us. They trust us enough for us to be able to sell something to them. And you can have the same effect in some cases, right? If you have a funnel, just talking about pricing right now, so you have to think about this. If you have a funnel and you were to give a product away, you can give a product away in order to get somebody into your funnel that is going to be your ideal customer. Now, what you don't want to do is you don't want to attract freebie seekers. You do want to attract people that are going to be serious and be the people that are going to get down to the end of your funnel. In some cases, if your pricing discourages the people you actually want to work with, the people that are going to be at the end of your funnel, it might be better to do a giveaway instead of a low price, right? Because you don't want to give people the idea that what you're offering is cheap. You want to give them the idea that they're getting a lot of value. However you do that. In some cases, you're going to want to put that low price product out there. In other cases, you're going to want to put that free product out there because you're trying to get people down to the end of your funnel. That's the goal. You start talking about pricing, you are pricing for the funnel. And that's really important here when you start thinking about whether you should lower or raise your price. And I'm not saying that either one's going to be right, either one's going to be wrong. But what I will say is that if you have an effective funnel, then what you're doing is you are pricing for the funnel. Now, you're going to have to test all this, right? There's no way to get a funnel right by guessing. There's no way to get a funnel right by being super smart. You're going to have to get some people into it. You're going to have to watch them. You're going to have to track your results. That's the only way you're going to be able to tell if your funnel is going to be working is to determine it's working by looking at the numbers, by looking at the people that you're sending there. Let's talk about another key aspect of the pricing process. You almost need to be doing this, right? And I would almost say that you have to be thinking about how you can help people to keep the results they're getting. If you go back to funnel theory, or even if you take your signature offer and you break it up into pieces over the course of a year, however you do it, when you start talking about this, you almost have to be thinking about some kind of continuity. And the continuity is really what drives some of the variables in your pricing towards your favor. Basically, all continuity means somebody's going to be paying you monthly. And that means that your effective price is going to vary. Let's say that at the end of your funnel, right, the funnel we've been talking about, you have a $10 monthly membership, $10, right? And obviously they're gonna get to, if they stay with you all 12 months, they're gonna be paying $120. Let's say that 1% of the people on the front end take you up on that offer, right? And then let's say that the average that they're going to stay subscribed is going to be 3 months. What that means then is that your effective price goes up on an annual basis by 30 cents. Right, so every customer you have inside of that membership that bought through your front end product, you're going to be causing your effective price to go up by 30 cents if you have a $10 monthly membership. Once again, it's a variable. So if the person stays 4 months, then your price goes up to 40 cents. If they stay 5 months, it goes up by 50 cents. And so every successive month they stay on, what you're doing is you're raising your effective price. This continuity basically helps you to cover some of the things that you have no control over. So sometimes you're always going to have business expenses that you didn't have any idea were going to hit you. One of the ways you cover those things is that you have continuity. Right. And every month that you keep people subscribed, what you're doing is you are basically raising your price over the course of time. And this is it's a vital and important part of any online business. And so I'd almost say that if you're not doing it, you have to kind of think through how you're going to do it, so that again, what you're basically doing is you're funding your business, right, on a monthly basis. So think about this. Before your month starts, you have, let's say, 7 members. They're all paying you $10 a month. Before the month starts, that means then that these people say subscribe, you're going to have $70 you don't have to sell for, right? You just continue to increase the value to them. Very important aspect of your pricing to make sure you have some kind of continuity. And then you can then start focusing your pricing on your pricing from the business perspective. What do I mean by that? You can get more people in your funnel to take you up on your membership, but your goal is ultimately going to be to increase the number of people to take you up on your membership and continuity. And especially that's going to be your signature product. If your continuity is going to be your signature product, what are you trying to do with your pricing? You're trying to get people into the top of the funnel so you can get them down to the end of the funnel to start paying you monthly. Right? That becomes the goal. And so then also, this is what's really important also and really cool about having continuity. Let's say then we talked about the fact that you're only converting that continuity at 1%. What would happen if you really worked on things and then you were able to increase that amount from 1% to 2%? At every point in time, what you're doing is you're basically increasing or doubling the amount of continuity income, and you're doubling the amount you're adding to your pricing. And so you start talking about, where am I going to spend my effort? Should I be spending my effort on trying to figure out which dollar amount to charge for it? Or should I be really working on the thing that I can get people into and finding my ideal customer? Right? Anytime you do this, right, you're increasing that amount, you're increasing the way they can get into that continuity. All that's invisible to the customer. So in other words, there's no way you communicate the wrong thing to the customer that way. What's going to happen is that customer is going to come in and you're going to get them to the end of the funnel. And when they stay on with you 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, all of that price increase is going to be invisible to that customer. Right now, the same thing's always going to be true to other aspects of your funnel. What do I mean by that? You should have a handle on the funnel, on the conversions in your funnel. Right? And this is going to help you to determine what you can do to generate the most income without changing the price of the front end offer. And so you start with the percentages that you can change most easily. So in other words, you start looking at start focusing in your funnel on the one that's converting. If you changed it, you can move the needle. If you changed it, if you can somehow increase the conversions in one area of your funnel, you're going to be making more money and it's going to be more leverage. And so you start considering the ones that are going to make the most impact. In most cases, that's going to be your continuity. In other cases, it's going to be your second or third upsell, right? Because of the price. But regardless, you've got to tune into what your funnel is doing. And you're also going to have to consider whether or not people are seeing all the offers in your funnel. That can happen too. There are times when you're going to set it up in, whether it's ClickBank or Warrior Plus or Thrive or whatever you set it up in, and goofy things just happen. And sometimes people don't get to the end of the funnel, and it's no fault of your own. So you got to try to think about ways to make sure people see all the offers in your funnel, because you can go for a long time, but sometimes people will tell you, and sometimes people won't, that they saw everything. And if they didn't see everything, what you're doing is you're leaving money on the table, and you're making wrong decisions about pricing, because you're not increasing the effective price that you're charging by making sure people get through your funnel. Now, all this is going to require monitoring and testing. You're going to make sure that by making the purchase, they're going to see all the offers. That's what's going to be important. All right. Okay. Any questions? Any questions? If you are not part of the New Marketer Masterclass, this is an open session, and the rest of the sessions are obviously going to be inside of the membership. So if you're watching this, and you're thinking, you know what, I think I'd like to do more of this, then currently the pricing is very advantageous, right? That's because it started out as a PLR product, and then I just decided to teach monthly here. So you can still do that. plrshow.com/strat live. plrshow.com/strat live. Also, if you have picked up Virtual Summit PLR, then you already have it. But if you haven't, you can still do that, depending on when you're seeing this. There's still unlimited, unrestricted rights. Now, again, if you're seeing this later on, and you found this kind of after the fact, the unlimited rights may not be available to you. However, right now, if you're watching this and you're watching this at a point in time I'm doing this training, then as of today, unlimited rights are still available. They'll be moving on. They'll be removed on Sunday at midnight. So if you haven't taken advantage of that, go ahead. This is something that I had retired, and then all of a sudden summits got popular. Right when I first did this, people were trying to figure out, well, what is this? I don't even know what the virtual summit is. Now, people understand that. So if you want to be teaching summits, you can do that by using our content here, the plrshow.com/VSU LMTD. All right. All right. Any questions? Any questions on pricing or anything else we covered here tonight? Any questions? Okay, everybody. Well, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate you all. Have a great night and a great weekend and a pleasant tomorrow. Take care.